we have other things there, such as the glass sea, a very beautiful picture there, and we have pictured these beings are worshiping God upon his throne. Day and night, they are constantly praising him. They are saying, holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. We find the elders falling down before him, casting their crowns before the throne, and they are saying, you are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created. As we get in chapter 5, we have a little change of circumstances here. A little bit of a dilemma develops here. And if you've read ahead, you know what I'm talking about. But let's go ahead and get into verse 1 here and see what's happening here in this majestic scene, the throne scene where God is sitting upon his throne. Verse 1 says, and I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed with 7 seals. Okay, so almost like we're zooming in a little bit here, a little bit more, get a little more detail of what's happening. Of course, God is here sitting upon his throne, but he's got something in his right hand he's holding. What's he holding there?
Scroll.
A scroll, okay. And some of the translations may say book, but I take it here, it is a scroll. During that time that this was written, they used scrolls. Now this is a book, okay? We're used to books, but a scroll was actually something that was rolled up, like if we took a piece of paper and rolled it up like this. This would be a scroll, okay? That's the difference. And that's what they used back during that time, that they would have scrolls, not books, bound like we have. That came later on. And so they would have scrolls. Of course, these things would be very large, and they're made out of skin, so a lot thicker than our paper. But as they would be reading something, they could unroll that and read it, and it would roll up at the bottom, and they just, go all the way through. Well, this one was written on front and back, we're told. But imagine, again, God has his scroll in his right hand here as he sits upon the throne. And in addition to being written on the front and back, it's sealed with 7 seals. We talked a little bit about that last time too, that here it's a seal, like a wax seal is kind of what I picture. You have something stamped on something to show that it belongs to somebody, but also to keep something closed. If the seal's been broken. I kind of think the things that we have similar to that, an envelope that you get that's not been opened, it's sealed. It don't have necessarily, some of them have a seal on, a lot of ours don't today, but if it's been opened or not, and that seal's on it to keep it shut. I don't know, there's other things, you might get a bottle of, some type of refreshment, and it might actually be sealed up so that, it's not been tampered with or open. Our medicines have seals around the top. Sort of that idea, but this is on a scroll, so there's 7 of these that is keeping it closed. And so, verse 2, we have a bit of a challenge here set forth. It says, then I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the scroll and to loose its seals? Okay. Now, it's interesting to me that it says it is a strong angel. Now, when we read about angels in the scriptures, it's a pretty intimidating sight, right? I mean, you think about how they're pictured. And most people, when they see an angel, are terrified. They oftentimes fall down and don't even want to look at the angel, but they're frightened when they see him. It's almost always the response. But this one's not described just simply as an angel, but it's a strong angel, a mighty angel. So there's something different about this angel that makes it even more powerful, more intimidating than a normal angel would be. Again, it's left to our imagination to try to picture that this is a mighty angel. This is one that is mightier, stronger evidently than the others, is a suggestion here. So this strong angel is here suddenly in heaven, and as God holds his scroll in his hand, this angel sets forth or proclaims a challenge. Who is worthy to open the scroll and to loose its seals? Who can come up here who can approach the throne of God and take this scroll out of his hand and open it? Who's worthy to do that?
No one in heaven or earth.
Okay, we're going to see in just a second that unfortunately, there's not anybody. But for a moment, just think of the challenge being presented here. Are you worthy? Any of us here, would you feel worthy to go up and take the scroll out of the hand of God? I'm not. I wouldn't approach his throne to take his scroll. I'm not worthy to do that. But that's the challenge that's being set forth. Who is worthy? Okay? So, as Tim just said, we find that unfortunately there's no one that's able to answer the challenge. In verse 3, it says, and no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look at it. Okay. Verse 3 mentions 3 different places here. It mentions heaven, earth, and what's the third place? Under the earth. What do you make of those 3 places? What are those talking about, do you think? Heaven,
This is where God is.
okay, so it's where they're at, right? It's where God is, the abode of God. This is where John is at. That's where the action is taking place, in heaven itself. Now, surely, if there's someone worthy to take the scroll, we think it'd be in heaven, right? I mean, this is where God is, where the angels are. Surely someone there is worthy to take the scroll. It's in heaven. But was there? Not at this point, is there? Not yet. No.
I mean, later, just a little bit later on, that verse it talks about thousands and thousands of angels
Yeah.
that were there that probably,
Innumerable
you know,
angels.
they were asking this question,
Yeah.
all of them.
That's right. We haven't seen them yet, but they're going to appear here a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But this includes them. They're in heaven.
And so,
None of them were. Even the mighty angel here, he wasn't. He's asking. So that's something, isn't it? And then earth. Again, that's maybe obvious, but what's it referring to?
Those that are not buried.
Mm-hmm. The living people that are on the earth, us. You know, right where we're at, right? So in all the earth. I don't know how many inhabitants they had back then. We have how many billion now. But of all those that were living upon the earth at that time, was any of them worthy to take the scroll and open it?
No.
Not a single one. Isn't that something? Now, the third part here is what's interesting, is what is meant by under the earth. Okay. I agree with Becky that I think that's referring to those who have died. Under the earth is a figure for those who have died and gone on. So again, you think about all those who at that point had lived before, who has died, and then by the way, this indicates that they were still alive in some sense, right? They still existed. They didn't cease to exist. They exist somewhere. Under the earth is used to describe another abode. But all those who've lived before, there's been a lot of really great people who've lived before, but was any of them worthy to take the scroll? No, not any of them. So the answer is a resounding no. Who's worthy? No one in heaven, no one in earth, no one under the earth can open the scroll. What do you think is suggested there in the idea of worthy? Why isn't anybody able to come and take it? What's suggested by the idea of being worthy, do you think?
People without blemish.
I definitely think of that too, Tim, that we think about worthy is the idea of being good enough, you know? The idea of yes, having the right, but having a right because you meet the requirements. And you know, I can't help but come to mind that no one is worthy because all are, yes, blemished, all are sinful in some sense or another. Now, again, when you talk about heaven, maybe a little different suggestion there. I don't think that, you know, we think of the heavenly beings as being sinful, but for some reason, they are not counted worthy here to do this. So, again, as I think about under the earth, you're talking about people, sinful beings, those on the earth, again, sinful beings, that would keep them from being worthy. But even in heaven, though they're not, I don't think, sinful, there's still some reason that they're not worthy to do this, though. There's some sense in which they're lacking something. There's something that they don't have that would allow them to be worthy.
They've not proven themselves,
Okay.
they've not overcome evil.
Okay.
Like when we read on, they've not been
That's right.
tested.
We're going to be given the answer, aren't we, when we find out who is worthy. And that's right. We're going to see that it's not a matter for them that they were sinful, but something they had not done to prove themselves worthy. Laura's exactly right.
And two, it'll help us, I think, a little bit more when we understand what's contained in the scroll.
That's right.
So
What's in the scroll.
that helps us will help us know why these were not worthy.
Right. I think all that information will help us as we move forward.
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah, sort of, kind of. Maybe not.
Confusing.
Yeah, maybe not all of it,
Yeah.
but it'll help us some. Yeah, there's more information going to be given. However, John here is kind of leaving us in a bit of suspense, isn't he? And I think he's going to help us to appreciate the next verse here as to how John responds to this. In verse 4, of course, John's the one narrating this, and he says, "So I wept much because no one was found worthy to open and read the scroll or to look at it." Okay, so John's response here is very strong concerning seeing that no one can open this scroll. Why did John, and this is question 1 under the second paragraph in your workbook, but why did John weep, you think? I mean, it's a very strong response. I mean, he didn't just, kind of have the sniffles here a little bit, or it says he wept strongly, wept much. Someone you've seen someone just weeping uncontrollably. That's his response to this, a very strong emotional response to no one being able to open the scroll. And so the question is, well, why did John weep when he sees this as the case?
I kind of equate this a little far as weeping as like Peter when he really, he denied Christ 3 times and he wept bitterly.
Yeah.
And, that's when I read this, I kind of thought that's how hard and strong John wept.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can think is that with the strong angel, the loud voice, is that John just must realize that what's in the scroll is something that's very important that these churches need to know.
Yeah.
Maybe, and not being able to open that, and maybe just the awe of this whole scene, and then out of everybody that was and everything, nobody can do it, and maybe just overtaken.
I think you're right on it. I think that's getting right at it here. I mean, again, why had John been called up there? Yeah. Right? He's to be shown things that are take place, and I kind of skipped over question 4 here, but I think it'll help us maybe a little bit with this. What is this book? What was written in it? You got a footnote there. He says, I have asked this question again at the end of the chapter. See the note there, where I've suggested that the book must be interpreted in light of a large context. Before we get into all that, though, John is supposed to be shown things that are to take place. And I can't help but think here that John is realizing that this scroll is containing what he is supposed to see, what is supposed to be revealed to him so that he can in turn reveal it to the churches. And so he's there in heaven waiting for this message. Here's a scroll, it's in the hand of God, it's ready. And yet when the strong angel proclaims, who is worthy to take it, there's no one that can take it. There's no one that can open it and reveal its contents to John. Suddenly John's mission here is brought to, a screeching halt. He can't do his job. He can't go further. There's no one to open it. Go ahead, Tim.
I kind of took from that there might be some said, frustration on his part.
Absolutely.
Hoping that the message that they have been showing all this time would have had more traction.
Yeah. Just again, frustration I think would be a good word describing John here, that I'm here in heaven. You've got anticipation of what this message is going to be for him. It's there, it's in the hand of God. He's wanting to receive it, but there's no one who can take it and open the scroll up. So yeah, you can see frustration on his part, like, well, we were moving forward to do this, but now it suddenly stopped. Yeah.
It almost maybe makes him sad because it kind of invalidates all of the work that the disciples and the apostles have been doing.
Again, you could think of that the importance of this, all the work has been done, but yet still, no one is there to open it. And again, in connection with Tim and Jeff's point here, I can't help but think that too, it ties in with the fact that no one is worthy too. You think about the commentary that provides for humanity, that none of us are worthy, and even even none in heaven, none under the earth. But you would think someone. So, and again, it's something too that's creating suspense here for the Lamb to come on the scene. We want to recognize that it's creating the magnificence of what the Lamb is able to do here. But we can, I think, sympathize with John and the emotions that he's feeling here, that there wasn't anybody who was worthy to do this, and that his mission is come to a stop, that it can't be completed at this point. And so he's emotional about this, very emotional, that there's no one that can open and read the scroll. No one can look at this very important document that's available there. I couldn't help but think of the prophet Isaiah back in, I think it's, let me make sure here, I should have wrote it down, but I think it's in chapter 6. Yes, in chapter 6, where he's called to his mission as a prophet, but he's given a scene, a vision of the throne of God, similar in some ways to what we read here. And you remember that when he finds himself in the presence of God, who is described as holy, 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 the Lord of hosts, the whole earth is full of his glory. When Isaiah saw that he was in the presence of God, you remember what his reaction was?
This man of unclean lips.
Yes, thank you, Laura. There in Isaiah 6 and verse 5, he says, "Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." Again, unworthy. Those in earth, those under the earth. Isaiah recognized, me, the people I come from, we're all unworthy to be here. And of course, in his case, there was a coal taken from the altar and put to his lips to purge his sins away. And then there was a mission for him where God's saying, who's going to go for us? And Isaiah said those memorable words, "Here am I, send me." So I couldn't help but think of that in connection again with John and his mission here. The throne scene when Isaiah. Okay, so John gets a little bit of reassurance here, a little bit of comfort from one of the elders. Now remember the elders. How many of them were there? 24 of them, and they're around the throne, right? So we see here, them kind of functioning as almost kind of a go-between with John, interacting with him. Because it says, "But one of the elders said to me, 'Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has prevailed to open the scroll and to loose its 7 seals.'" So John gets some really good news here. There is someone who can open the scroll. And he is described here by the elders in kind of a symbolic way, because they call him the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He's called the Root of David. Now, our author of our book gives us a little bit of help here, giving us some cross-references to help understand what those mean. The first one is found back in, actually since, I already turned away from Isaiah. Let's go back to Genesis 49 and notice what's said there. See how this can help us understand why Jesus is called here. First off, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Genesis 49, verse 9. Anybody want to read that for us?
Yeah, I'll read.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
I'm reading English Standard Version. It says, Judah is a lion's cub from the prey, my son, you have gone up, he stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and as a lioness, who dared rouse him?
If you would, read verse 10 also with that.
The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet until tribute comes to him, and to him shall be the obedience of the peoples.
Okay. Here, Jacob is talking to his different sons, okay? And we know that those sons will be the tribes of Israel. So, this is his son Judah, from whence the tribe of Judah will come. And so he's saying some things that will be true of the descendants of Judah, the tribe of Judah, that's of Israel. And he describes Judah here as, again, being one who is a lion's offspring. The New King James says lion's whelp, lion's cub is the idea there. And he goes up to take the prey. He crouches like a lion, and who's going to rouse the lion? No one's going to mess with the lion. But then also, in connection with the lion, is the idea of royalty in verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet. The idea that Judah is going to be a tribe from whom kings will come from. And when we look forward in time, what great king came from Judah? It wasn't Saul. Saul came from the tribe of Benjamin, remember? But who did come from the tribe of Judah? David, the greatest king of all, right? And then, of course, his son Solomon. And then as you go forward with the divided kingdom, those of the southern kingdom of Judah, pretty much all of those were of David's lineage and from the tribe of Judah. So Judah was the tribe from whom the kings came from. And so that's describing him. And the image here is that Judah was a lion. And so a lion is associated with the idea of kingship. And even today, the lion is called the what of beast? The king of beasts. Yeah? The lion just has kind of a kingly mannerism to it. You think about it, proud, got that mane and all. It just it has probably for most times been associated with the idea of royalty, of kingliness. And so when Jesus here is described as the lion of the tribe of Judah, you see the imagery there that it's harking back to. Of course, Jesus was from the tribe of Judah. He was a descendant of David even. And so he was worthy to, he was qualified to sit upon the throne of David as king, which of course we was foretold that. David himself was told that would be the case. Okay, now the other expression here is that he's called the root of David. So again, we've already been talking about David here, so we're given a glimpse there. But over in Isaiah, we have a reference there to help us a little bit with that too, if we already have figured it out. Isaiah 11 and verse 1 says, "There shall come forth a rod from the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots." Then down in verse 10, "In that day there shall be a root of Jesse, who shall stand as a banner to the people. For the Gentiles shall seek him, and his resting place shall be glorious." Who do you think Isaiah is foretelling there?
David, he's the son of David.
His son David, but I think he's looking a little bit even further down the line, though. Who would be the descendant of David? Be Jesus. You'll notice in verse 2 there in 11, "The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord." I think when you look there that it seems to be a prophecy of Jesus, who was a descendant of David, who, as Laura correctly pointed out, was the son of Jesse. Jesse was David's father. So we see here again the connection here to show that this is referring to Jesus. Jesus was a descendant of David. David was the son of Jesse. And the imagery there of a root, of a stem, of a branch, all these, the idea of, something coming up from the root, a stem, a plant coming up from the roots of something in the ground. And in the plant world, we recognize that that's the way that the plants would have their offspring. There'd be a root still in the ground, and then from that, the tree or plant will grow up. And so it's a way of saying that Jesus is a descendant from that lineage that ties back to Jesse and to his son David, who was the king, and all of them again was of the tribe of Judah. So all this is to say that he's referring here to Jesus. He's referring here to the Messiah, the Christ, that was promised to be of the tribe of Judah, to be a descendant from David. And he says of him that he has, notice, prevailed to open the scroll and loose its 7 seals. Is it easy to open the scroll? No. He says he prevailed to do it. So these haven't, but again, talking about Jesus, and he is the Lion of Judah. He is from Jesse. And was he worthy to open the scroll? Yes, because he prevailed. So, good news. Jesus is able to do what no one else could do here. So this is reassuring, of course, to John, that there is someone who's able to open it, and I'm sure John recognized the imagery there that this was referring to Jesus. But when we get to the next verse, when John looks there amidst the throne and what's going on, he doesn't see a lion, and he doesn't see a branch coming up from the root of Jesse. What does he see?
Beast.
Nope, not a beast. A lamb, okay. There is some beast there, but what he sees there is a lamb. That's the new part of the picture. It's a lamb, and not just any lamb, right? Something different about this lamb.
Long before you answer that,
Go ahead.
can I ask you just related to how we just went back to the Old Testament and looking at the line of the tribe of Judah, root of David, related to him being, how does that relate to showing that he is worthy? Is it because it's the bloodline, it was prophesied, the one that would come to be the sacrifice, basically, and make him worthy? You think that's the tie-in there to bring it back through the bloodline and then say he prevailed?
It could be. I took it, Jeff, that just on the kind of a more, how should I put this? Just on the more straightforward look at it, just on the surface, I think the first point is just one of recognition. That he's trying to show that this is Jesus, because again, John and the churches, they're familiar with Jesus, and they would be familiar with his lineage. That he was to be from the tribe of Judah, he was to be a descendant of David, and those are all things that were tied in to the prophecies of the Messiah, of the Christ. That when you're talking about the Christ, well, it had to be someone who was of Judah, who was from David. But then also when you tie into those two, it also then ties into the promise made to Abraham also. That not only, is from the seed of David, but it also then goes back to Abraham, that God had originally promised to him that it'd be through his seed that all nations would be blessed. And there's a lot of other things too, that tie in from here and there. But all that ties into the lineage that Jesus, he had to be from that tribe, he had to be from Israel, all those things to fulfill the promises to be the Messiah. So I think on just, kind of on the surface here, it's just a way of identifying him without saying it's Jesus. It's a kind of a symbolic way of showing it is him. But on a deeper level, I think you're hitting at it right there, that, you know, it is getting at him being worthy, that the one who could do these things had to be from that lineage. He had to be the one that came through this nation of Israel, through David, through that tribe, in order to fulfill, you know, there's only one that could fulfill all of that, and that was Jesus, you know. Very narrow window that person would have to come through to be it. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think there's that deeper undercurrent here, that it's part of his being worthy. I imagine, though, for John, just as soon as he hears Judah, Lion, root of Jesse, that's talking about Jesus there, you know.
Church
So,
would know that.
and they would know that too, yeah. They would immediately recognize it's referring to him. And again, remember that he's writing this to Christians under persecution, so the Romans could be reading this. If they read that, they'd be like, well, what? Who's that? You know. So again, we have a lot of symbolism used here. But good question, a good thought question. Verse 6, back to, we're down to verse 6 now. We're talking about the lamb here. It's a lamb, but there's some things peculiar about it, okay? What was one of the strangest things about this lamb?
He was dead.
Yeah, it was dead. I like the way Tim put that. He just put it very blunt. It was dead. And that's the idea here. The New King James says, as though it had been slain. If you look down here at the footnote at the bottom of the page, it says, translate as slain rather than as though it had been slain, or as if slain. The lamb did not just appear to have been slain, it had actually been slain. And so Tim is right in saying that it was dead. Saying this lamb had been killed. It was dead. So that gets the point over here about Christ. He is a lamb that has been killed, a lamb that has been dead. But of course, the amazing thing here is, though it was dead, it's alive. It's standing. It's alive. Now, there's something else that's kind of odd about this lamb as he sees it. It has something you don't really associate with the lamb. I've never seen one like this myself. I'd be a little scared if I did, to be honest. But what did it have? It had 7 of 2 different objects here.
Horns and eyes.
Okay, horns and eyes. Yeah, it had 7 horns and it had 7 eyes. So that is kind of interesting here. This again is what John sees. He doesn't see the lion. He doesn't see the root of David. What he does see is a lamb. But again, remember that this is it's all symbolic here. It's all symbols to help us see that it is Christ. Different things that are picturesque of him. Now, let's talk just a little bit about why this image is being used. Why is Jesus here described as a lamb, a slain lamb? Why is that fitting? Again, we've seen the others definitely are fitting of Christ, and this one is too, but why is that fitting concerning Christ?
He went to the cross blameless. Okay.
He went to the cross, and how does that tie in to the idea of a slain lamb, though?
The lamb's innocent.
Okay, lamb's innocent?
Still a child.
Okay. Like a child, we think of a lamb as being innocent? Okay.
Jesus was innocent.
Okay, he was innocent.
To the cross.
Okay, and so that makes it certainly appropriate symbol, emblem for him. There's some more to this too. Laura, what was you going to say?
Passover, he was the Passover lamb.
Okay, this also, the lamb takes us back to the Old Testament. When we think about the use of a lamb back there, that the Passover, when we think about it, they had to offer a lamb without blemish. And what did that accomplish? When they, back there in Egypt, took the lamb without blemish and it was killed, and they ate it as part of the feast or whatever. But what did the blood of that lamb accomplish for those who did that?
Saved their firstborn.
Saved their firstborn, did it? Yeah. Again, the angel's gonna come through, destroy the firstborn, but if you took the blood of that pure lamb that was killed and you put it over the door lintels, then you'd be spared from that death, okay? And in different places, Jesus is compared to the Passover lamb. 1 Corinthians 5 is one example I often think of that Paul talks about him being our Passover lamb. So Jesus is representative of that, in that he died for us, like that lamb died. His blood was shed so that we wouldn't die, you see. So there's a connection there. In addition to the Passover lamb, though, in what other sense was a lamb used or killed that ties in with Jesus? Okay, the priest would offer lamb as a sacrifice. And again, it had to be a pure lamb. But a lamb was offered to make atonement for the people, too, remember? And you had the event that took place once a year, that the priest would go into the most holy place, but he would make sacrifice for himself and for the people by offering the lamb. Its blood had to be shed. And then that would make atonement for the sins of the people. Or really, as we know now, it kind of rolled things forward, to a later date. But to them, as they seen it, that was taking care of their sins that had taken place. And of course, individuals would offer sacrifice as well. So there's a lot of deep symbolism here of Jesus being this lamb that was slain. It ties into the Passover, it ties into the atoning sacrifices that were made, and it all ties back again, as someone said earlier, to Jesus' death on the cross. It's why he's depicted here as a lamb that was slain. What about the 7 horns and 7 eyes? We're not given specific, well, we are given one specific, that these do relate to who? The Holy Spirit, the 7 spirits of God. And they've been presented here throughout what we've read so far already. And I think last week we talked about that a little bit, but we've seen already that they were, again, you had the 7 fires before the throne, which in verse 5 is the 7 spirits of God. You had the 7 in connection with Jesus among the churches as well. In the very beginning, when this letter opens, you there have reference to, in verse 4, to the 7 spirits who are before his throne. So there's been several references to the Spirit as in the plurality of 7. And we talked a little bit about the symbolism of that. That 7 is the number of completion, of fullness, of maturity. It's also the number of the churches that the letter is being written to. So probably the idea here that the Spirit, is given to each of these 7 churches as well. And so don't be confused here. The scriptures obviously teach that the Spirit is one, that he is one being. Okay, there's not 7 Holy Spirits, there's one Holy Spirit. But in the image here, the symbolism, he is symbolized as 7 things, 7 flames, or 7 eyes, or 7 horns. And again, I think it goes back to the 7 churches, back to the idea of completion, fullness there, and how that he is his work, to these 7 churches. Of course, the question still remains here: why eyes and horns? And we're not told. This is what we're not told. We're not told specifically why there's 7 eyes and 7 horns representing the Spirit. As we think about it, though, what might eyes represent? We think about eyes. What do they do for us?
You're able to see.
We're able to see. Okay.
Sometimes you hear people, refer to, he's my eyes and ears.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So.
And sometimes when we come to understand something, we'll say, I see it, I see it, I see it. What do we mean by that? It's not we literally see it with our eyes, but it's the idea of discernment, isn't it? Understanding. So just a thought there that maybe this is the idea again of the role of the Spirit in enlightening, in revealing truth, making things known to the churches. Possibility there that's why eyes are used, the idea of wisdom, discernment, understanding. Horns is a little bit harder, but oftentimes horns are used as a symbol of power. You know, you think about, again, the beast. The beast has horns, and it represents probably different emperors that were rulers. In Daniel, you had different beings there that had different, 7 horns or a number of horns on there. So a lot of times horns represented power. You think about, again, animals with their horns. It's how they fight. It's how they wage their battle for supremacy. As they use their horns to fight against the enemy. So horns, through past times have often represented the idea of power, of how you fight for your power. So if that is the idea here, I'm not sure. It could refer to, again, the power of the Holy Spirit, but we're not told. So it's hard to figure exactly. But obviously they're symbolic. You don't see lambs with horns, obviously not 7 horns, not any horns usually. You don't see them with 7 eyes. This is symbolic of some role of the Spirit here. So we're told, it's the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. So in verse 7, we see that indeed the Lamb comes forward, and he takes the scroll out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne. We see here that Jesus is able to do this. And are we? 10:18. We're supposed to stop at 15 after, right? It happened again. That clock just slipped forward. How could it have gone so fast? All right. Well, that's a good stopping place. I apologize. I wasn't paying attention to the clock there. But the point here again, as we sum this up, and we'll take our break. Again, the idea is here's a scroll that is very important. We'll talk more about it. It's going to allow John to fulfill his mission. It's going to reveal the message of this revelation. But no one is able to take it, to open it. No one is worthy. Who is worthy? These aren't. But Jesus is. Jesus, the line of Judah, the root of Jesse, the lamb that has been slain, he is worthy. So he comes and he takes the scroll, and it's beginning to set the stage for the scroll to be opened. But there's some things that happen before that. As soon as Jesus takes the scroll, heaven is just going to explode with praise and worship for him because he's able to do this. So we want to examine that and note some things from that. All right, well, thank you for your attention this morning. You guys are doing a great job. Please keep doing your lessons in the book and reading, and we'll, Lord willing, keep moving forward.